Most people do not plan for taking care of aging parents until a crisis happens. Somebody falls, there's a hospitalization, you realize one of your parents is having cognitive problems. And when that happens, that is not the best time to make decisions. Your options are limited and you're kind of in panic mode. So let me tell you from experience, you don't want that to happen. My name's Ana de la Cruz. I am a sandwich generation caregiver. I have 3 young kids, 2 parents with dementia, and a brother with Down syndrome that I care for. So in my last video, we talked a little bit about the 7 signs you can look out for that one of your parents may need additional help and that it's time to kind of step in. Now we're going to talk about what are you going to do when you realize one of your parents has additional needs, they need support, they maybe are having cognitive troubles or physical decline. What do you do? Well, the first thing I want to say is the best time to start planning is before you really start to notice issues with your aging parents. If they're getting older, you probably are going to need to help out and step in some way or another at some point. So the first step, whether you've noticed any signs or not, is to have conversations with your parents. Ask them what kinds of care they're interested in when they get older and if they need it. Because having those conversations early when you're not in a moment of stress is much easier for everyone. It's not fun. Nobody wants to talk about like when I get old and I can't take care of myself, or I have to lose some of my independence or think about a different living arrangement. It's not fun. Nobody really wants to initiate those conversations, and that's why we don't do it. But if you don't do it, your parents' wishes are going to possibly go unknown to you when you have to make decisions. They will have a hard time articulating everything they want and thinking about it in a moment of crisis, and you will too. So if you can start early having conversations with them about possibly what they're open to in terms of living, what kinds of care they would like. I mean, is it in their home? Is it in a facility or a community where there's more opportunities for socialization? Is it an option for you to have your parent come live with you? I know that's not an option for everyone, but sometimes there are different expectations there that even go unknown between parent and child or between siblings. And when you're not all on the same page and then you have to make decisions, it's really difficult if nobody knows what the other people are thinking. And these conversations it's not one conversation, it's multiple conversations over time. That way you can have the conversations with less stress and pressure. You can kind of ease into the topic, start asking about what preferences are, exploring options, doing your research, and just make it normal. Make it a normal part of your conversations with your parents as they're aging. And even you could start with like, well, I've been thinking about like what I would want, or, we were working on our wills, my partner and I, and thinking about our kids and just wanting to make sure they're protected. That's another way to open up the conversation, kind of making it about you or your interest. I'm getting worried that maybe I wouldn't know what to do if you were in this situation. So if you could share with me what you're thinking, what your ideas are, what your concerns or wants are, that would be really helpful to me. So kind of making it about yourself and how it would be helpful for you is a really good way to open up that conversation. And as I said, a big part of this is understanding wishes. So that's one piece of it, but it's also getting some of this research underway. So once you kind of understand what your parents might want or how they're thinking about this, you can start researching living options, care options, start exploring finances. Finances is another big piece. So there's living options, finances, and then medical. So talking to them about what their medical wishes are. Do they have plans in place for death and burial? Do they have plans and wishes in terms of whether or not they're part of any organ donation? Do they have a DNR in place? Things like that. So you really want to get ahead of those things so you're not trying to make really big decisions in a moment of crisis. And thinking about getting a lot of this written down in documentation as much as possible as well. You want to think about creating wills, making sure that they have wills in place or that they're updated. Sometimes often they'll have a will, but it was made 20, 30 years ago and hasn't been looked at since, and a lot has changed. So I know that happened with my parents, and they really need to be updated and looked at every 5 years or so, ideally, at least every 10 years. And then also power of attorney. That's something that I had to do with my mother kind of too late in the game, but I would recommend that you get those options in place, look into what the options are for both financial and health power of attorney, and make sure you have those ready to go when the time comes, when they're needed. So the key documents would be the wills, power of attorney, a healthcare directive of some sort, and then getting financial visibility. So having kind of a map of what the accounts and financial picture broadly is for your parents, so that you know what you're working with and how things will be paid for, what they can actually afford, because assisted living and nursing homes are very expensive, and there's a large proportion of the population that does not qualify for Medicaid but could not afford paying nursing home fees of $15,000 a month. So if a parent ends up in that situation, there needs to be a contingency plan for working that out. And talk to a financial advisor or a care advisor if you need help kind of navigating that, if you see that potential tension in your future. And then you want to make sure that you're talking to the rest of your family. So what is the role of each sibling, if you have siblings, in managing this process, in managing the documentation, in finances, health? Do you want to split up the duties in some way? Housing? How are you all talking to each other, communicating, storing this information safely, and just making sure you're on the same page rather than just starting to take on tasks silently without communicating? That can lead to a lot of miscommunication, resentment, one person doing most of the work without others realizing they're doing most of it, or without them offering to help because you're just doing it. Having those conversations with your siblings or other family members, aunts, uncles, relatives who might be implicated or willing to help, really it will save you a lot of stress later on and potential conflict with other family members. And again, start small with these things, right? So you have several documents now I've mentioned that you should be getting into place with your parents. And on top of the legal documents, you want to have kind of mapped out what preferences and maybe options are for when the time comes that your parents maybe can't live alone or need additional support, and how you would finance those. So starting to create a plan, but either way, sort of a master vault of information that is shared among family members and communicated and revisited and updated. Because care planning, it's really not about having one big conversation, having everything figured out at once. It's about continuing to have the conversations, making sure you're on the same page with your loved ones, making sure you're staying on top of what things might cost and how you might pay for them, the picture of your overall finances, which changes over time, the picture of your overall health, which changes over time. You really need to be just having these conversations one small step at a time, so that you're not just thrown into a crisis and trying to manage everything at once all by yourself. I hope this was helpful. If you're interested and you're thinking about this, I'm putting together a workbook on how to start planning for your own or for your parents or other elders in your life need for potentially more care in the future, and how to do this as you're also possibly managing care for young children or siblings. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. And once I have it ready to go, I'll link it down in the comments. Feel free to hit me up with your questions, your thoughts, your feedback, and see you next time.